by playing it to the public, by playing it to support, we know exactly what they're trying to do.
No, I think Rangers were perfectly entitled, I think, to say, hold on a minute, on Sunday our players and staff had been assaulted, and the narrative, the storyline has moved on to something else, and that's not right. And it's taken until today, I think, for the PFA, the SFA to an extent, and Hibs to
Richard, was an apology from Rangers to the photographers who were, to Steve Welsh, whose kit was, there was incidents with the photographers at the Rangers end. Is an apology to them?
Well, maybe there will be now that you've informed everybody.
It's perfectly right that Hibs are held to account for their actions. Equally, it's perfectly right that Rangers are held accountable. And Rangers, in their statement, have abrogated the responsibilities here in terms of the behaviour of their own fans. That's what they've done, and I can understand completely their ire, their fury at their players being targeted, and that is at the centre of this. That is the absolute centre of this, that these Rangers players were assaulted, and that has to be fixed first and foremost. But they cannot brush under the carpet the behaviour of some of their own fans, even when provoked. They can't ignore that.
And you said, Kenny, earlier about how did you asked Kenny Shields, how do you stop this? There's really only two ways that you stop it. One, you have a huge police and stewarding presence at the end of a game where you think something like this might happen,
which is
quite possibly, and I think there was a public order. The other thing is to dispense proper punishment on this, to stop fans doing this, is to see their club punished for them taken to the field of play.
Right. So can I just say something on that? It'll be interesting to see what the SFA can do, because there's no strict liability.
I know.
Football clubs in this country, including Hibs and Rangers, don't want strict liability. So that's an issue. Where can the SFA go when dishing out what has to be very heavy punishment? On the stewarding issue, I'm just reading Michael Grant's column, and Michael was there along with the lads. He said it was 3 minutes and 45 seconds before mounted police appeared, and 4 minutes before a line of stewards began to form, soon reinforced by police, to push Hibs back into their own half and end the worst of it. That's Michael Grant in the Times today. Why did it take so long?
Well, but that's not entirely the point. The point was that Hibs, at the end, if we talk about the Hibs end, the stewards came out. Now, in my reflection, the stewards came out pretty sharp at half-time before the break, and there was a pretty solid wall, which my memory is at half time there was, Pat.
Yeah, but not at full time.
No, that's what I'm going to say. I think that was diluted. And also, what has happened over the years is that the police presence at games in Scotland, because of cost, has been diluted.
Yeah.
We've introduced stewarding from companies who pay guys not much more than the minimum wage, and we expect these guys who are not physically
allowed to physically handle it.
Most of them are not physically.
But they're also not allowed to physically handle it.
And for the minimum wage, they expect to be firing into these guys. I just think we've got a whole issue with the pricing thing, and it's down to costs.
Someone on Twitter here saying reasoned statement from Hibs tonight. Hibs right to wait until today to analyse evidence. You've got that statement, Richard.
Yeah, again, it's a long one, so I'll not go through it all, but it starts, a police-led criminal inquiry is underway into events at Hibernian's historic Scottish Cup win over Rangers at the weekend. The Scottish FA has also launched its own independent commission. The club welcomes the announcement, which should have the widest terms of reference. Hibernian FC will cooperate fully with the commission in every way. It must be allowed to run its course. But then Hibs go on to say that they reiterate the club is sorry that a number of Hibernian supporters invaded the pitch. The club will cooperate fully with all the relevant authorities. They will do everything in their power to bring any Hibernian supporters found to have been involved in the most serious allegations of assault, including assaults on the staff of players of Rangers. They will do everything in their power to bring them to book. The club will take strongest possible sanctions against any supporters involved in criminal activity or unacceptable behaviour. And then there's some quotes at the end from Rod Petrie, and he said, "It is now clear from various sources that supporters being on the pitch at the end of the match led to acts of violence and disorder. I condemn, and the club condemns, all of the violence and unacceptable conduct perpetrated on the pitch and elsewhere and in the margins of the match at Hampden. There is absolutely no place for that in the game. Hibernian will do all that it can to support the criminal investigations to ensure that those who have transgressed face the consequences of their actions."
Right, we'll get the SFA statement from you in just a minute. Lots of people getting in touch. Nick Heller says an attempted pitch invasion was as predictable as it was preventable. No invasion equals no fighting and no moral crisis. Colin Stewart, and to think that some people want to allow alcohol back to football.
That's
no
the end of
excuses.
that.
Keep alcohol out of football.
That is the end of that. I never agreed with that anyway, but that has put the tin hat. We don't even debate that anymore.
And a statement from the SFA this evening.
Yep, they have said that they have initiated the process of appointing an independent commission to investigate the Cup final disorder. Chairperson will be appointed, and the commission's remit will be to review all operational matters relating to the event hosting of the final. In the interest of transparency, the commission's findings will also be published in full. In addition, the Scottish FA's compliance officer has also started the process of investigating potential rule breaches from a football regulatory perspective. It should be pointed out that as the Cup final is now subject to a criminal investigation, we shall share all information gleaned so far with them.
Right, just for a couple of minutes, let's actually talk about what was a fantastic game of football, Pat. Did Hibs deserve their win?
They did. I thought they were fabulous on the day. There was a period in the game, I wasn't at the game, I watched it at a family occasion and I watched it in and out of the house and so on. But there was a period in the game I thought that Hibs are gone now. But the great credit to them, they came back, and Alan Stubbs made the changes, made critical changes at the right time to get them going again. He put on Liam Henderson when I thought
his set-piece deliveries were superb.
Superb, but he also his energy and the way. So I think great credit to Alan for doing that and getting the Hibs, and they never give up till that, till the final minutes. People would have probably said that 2-1 down, Hibs won't come back. I kind of was saying to myself, actually watching it, but great credit to them that they actually did and won the game. And it was that last 10 minutes was incredible for them.
And big question marks over the Rangers' defence on Saturday.
Oh, without question, Kenny. I mean, there's been question marks about the Rangers' defence all season, and we've talked on the programme about they shipped 3 goals against a number of teams in the final stages of the season. James Tavernier to me looked off the pace, but he had no means to contain Anthony Stokes at any point during the game. Rob Kiernan was the same. Rangers lose 2 goals from set pieces, so I think Rangers would have come away from that game again with it re-emphasised that their defence needs a lot of work and they need to upgrade areas of the team. I'm baffled by the fact they only had 5 substitutes on the bench. None of their players would have been anywhere else. They had a 17-year-old midfielder on the bench. I do not know why the Rangers manager didn't put 2 other young kids on the bench to make up his defence. Tavernier was injured in the first half. He couldn't come off because there was no one else to come on. But at the same time, I think Hibs deserved to win the final. They were the better team on the day, and in Anthony Stokes they had the best player on the pitch playing for them.
It's such a major thing, isn't it, Chick? So often, I'm guessing probably for about 40 years, it's been talked about, this Hibs not winning the Scottish Cup is something that the whole club so badly needed.
Ruined half my after dinner stuff actually.
Sorry, Chick, I think Dundee are at 109.
Was it 1910? I think they won. I think the thing about the game is Anthony Stokes must be hoping that Brendan Rodgers was watching it, because that was his best game. He looked the quality player. There's no doubt his ability, but you just wonder what it is mentally about him. He doesn't get himself into the game. I thought he was fantastic. Take Richard's point. It's Rangers defence. That first goal was just absolutely Rangers retreating. Kiernan, why didn't he commit himself to force him to the line? Showed him where to put the ball. And actually, the Rangers were a shambles. I don't think that their showbiz players. Barry Mackay didn't light up the game for a start. Kenny Miller.
But
at the age of 30,
probably Rangers' best player.
Is that what looking for next year, Kenny Miller?
Alan Stubbs made a big call to go with the back 3, and it absolutely worked because Rangers didn't have the corridors of space that they like to pass through in the final third. That was a big call and he got it right.
Well, we kicked off tonight with the new Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers. He spoke with the media this afternoon. After that, he addressed the fans inside the stadium. I've seen reports saying there were up to 15,000 supporters in attendance to welcome him to Glasgow.
I'm a man who is proud to come to Celtic Park. Please put your hands together. Welcome to my best and welcome to the Celtic Park. You are now at the head of the table at Celtic Park. How does that feel? First of all, I want to say apologies for keeping you waiting. It's an absolute incredible turnout, and I can't say I'm surprised because the Celtic supporters never fail to support the men. And never forget Tommy Burns. You're a leader of the men and a leader of the people, and I'm very proud to be here for you guys. So thank you very much.
You're have to say, Tom English, Brendan Rodgers played a blinder today, but you were very impressed with him this afternoon.
Yeah, I think those fans probably like him. What do you think? I'm going on the limb here. He was very accomplished. He was a very experienced manager, so you'd expect him to say all the right things. But he knows that, you can tell he knows the club. He knows the way fans are thinking. He knows the expectations. He knows the pressure. It's going to be really interesting because he's a very impressive guy. And that pressure's on right away. Champions League qualifiers.
It's on, but what it does for Scottish football and what it does for the media, what it does for everybody involved in it, and that's what football's about. It's about the media, it's about the fans, it's about the players, it's about the management, it's about staff, it's about the clubs. Everybody's involved in this, and he brings it up to a level that we all want to be involved in.
Well, the season's just finished, and we're already all excited about what next season's going to be like.
And Chick's retiring.
That's so important for Scottish football. And Chick's retiring.
I don't want.
Did he mention you today?
I don't want to hold I'm not a man who hold a grudge, Kenny, as you know, but when Liverpool played Hearts in the European Tag Team, they refused me an interview once, and I haven't had a week.
So he does know what he's doing.
He's gone up even further in my estimation.
So he can just... I refused to ask him any questions today.
Well, it certainly was a very busy press conference at Celtic Park. Many Celtic fans turning out there. We heard from Brendan Rodgers on the programme. That's it for tonight. With thanks to Tom English, Chick Young, Richard Wilson and to Pat Bonner. This has been the last of our midweek programmes for this season, but we're back every weekend, so 2 till 5 every Saturday. Join us for that. Also 12 till 3 on a Sunday. So lots more for you throughout the summer right here on Sportsound. Also on Sunday night we've got a programme for you to cover the national side. They're taking on Italy in Malta, so join us for that. That's it. Thanks for listening. Don't forget you can receive all the sports news in our daily bulletins on Radio Scotland and at our website bbc.co.uk/sportscotland.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Radio Scotland.